Hello students, today we're going to move on to multi-step equations, right? We left off on two-step equations and this time we're going to use probably most of our stuff here, okay? So let's start with our first one here. This one we don't need to cross multiply because it doesn't look like a proportion. So this one we're going to start and distribute because you notice we have these parentheses, right? And numbers up against them. So I'm going to start on the left here and I'm going to distribute this 3 like this, and then I'm gonna come on this side and distribute this 2 over here. So 3 times x gives me 3x, and 3 times negative 4 gives me negative 12. 2 times negative 2 gives me negative 4x, and 2 plus 1, no, sorry, 2 times positive 1 gives me a 2. Okay, so we've done step 2, which is the distribution step. Now we're gonna try to see if we can combine like terms on each side. So these don't combine and these don't combine. So we're gonna move on to our next step, which is separate letters from numbers. So just to be clear, this is a letter, this is a number, letter, and number. So I'm gonna call this my letter side and this my number side. So look at our letter side. The thing that doesn't belong is this 12, right? And then remember, this is step 4. And our tools are plus or minus only, and our goal is to make zeros, right? To cancel things away. So this 3x is okay here on the left, but this negative 12 is not. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a plus 12. Negative 12 plus 12, that makes a 0. That's what we wanted to do. Now, because we added 12 to one side, we've made it bigger by 12, and this used to be equal, so we need to do the same thing to this right side. So we're gonna do a plus 12 here. Okay, and then when I look at the left side, the thing that doesn't belong here is this negative 4x, because together that's a letter. Think about negative x, negative x, negative x, negative x, 4 of those negative x's. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna get rid of this guy. And again, remember, my tools are only plus or minus. So because this is a negative 4x, I'm gonna do plus 4x. It's like I owe 4x, I pay 4x, 0, we're good. And now to keep it equal, we need to add 4x to this other side. And then now we'll do our subtotal, okay? So 3x and 4x makes 7x. And then on this right side here, we're gonna have 2, positive 2 and positive 12 gives me positive 14, which is nice. And then I'm done separating, right? That's step 4. These are 7 x's, the letters, and then these are numbers. So I can go on to step 5, which is my solve step. So what we're gonna do is, because this is multiplying, because this is a coefficient, we're gonna divide by 7 on both sides, and then we'll get x equals 2. Cool? So this is one where we had to do step 2, that distribute step, and then we did step 4, the separate step. You notice we skipped steps 3, it wasn't necessary. And then down here, when we do that divide by 7, that's step 5. And we're done. Cool? So let's go on to number 2. So let me scoot my camera over a little bit. So let's check out number 2. This one does not look like cross multiply. There's no distribute. Combine, I don't know, let's see. Can we combine these two? No, they're not like terms, and I can't combine these. So no need to combine. So it looks like we're gonna start this one on step 4, which is my separate step. And remember, our tools are plus or minus. So the first thing we do is we choose a letter side and we choose a number side. And there's one of each on each side, so it doesn't really matter, but I'm gonna make the left side my letter side and the right side my number side, okay? So this is a letter, this is a number, this is a letter, and this is a number, okay? Sometimes people have a hard time seeing that this term is a letter, but this is 8, and the only reason that 8 is there is to tell me that I have 8 of these Q's, okay? So this guy represents Q plus 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 Q, 8 of those Q's, okay? So here we go. We're gonna draw the line here and we're gonna separate letters from numbers. So I said the left side was gonna be my letter side. He's okay, he's not okay. Okay, so plus or minus. If I do a plus 6 here, I make a 12 and I haven't canceled anything, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a minus 6 here. That gives me a 0, cool. And I'm gonna do a minus 6 over here in order to keep it equal, right? And then on the right side, we need to get rid of that 4Q. This time that 4Q is positive and we want to make a 0. So we're going to take away 4Q, like a minus 4Q. Okay. And then to keep it equal, we're going to do the same thing to this side. And then let's do our subtotal. This gives me 4q equals to negative 20. Cool? And then you notice these are all letters and these are all numbers, so we're done separating. Now we can move on to step 5, which is my solve step. Once again, this 4 is the coefficient to the q, or it's multiplying that q. So we're gonna divide by 4, divide by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1q equals to negative 5, or just q equals to negative 5. Cool. So you notice different ones of these require us to do different steps. Here we use step 4 and we use step 5. Okay. While we're on this side, how about we do number 4? So number 4 can be a little bit tricky. You notice we have parentheses and we have like a number there, but not really. So we're gonna have to do a distribution. It's definitely not a cross multiplication because there's nothing to cross multiply there. So this one, the coefficient to this set here is this negative 1. So it's as if this negative 1, we're multiplying these guys, right? Sometimes people want to put this 7 and this negative 1 together first. But if you do that, that's combined, right? And combine is step 3. So, but this is step 2. Step 2 comes before step 3. Okay, so first we're going to ignore this 7. We'll just bring him down. We're not going to use him right now. Negative 1 times 5t gives me negative 5t. And then negative 1 times negative 13 gives me a positive 13. And this is all equal to negative 25. Again, this is step 2, my distribution step. Now we can go to step 3 and we can look to see what it is that we can combine, right? Step 3 combine. So on this left side, this guy and this guy can be combined because they're both numbers. So 7 and 13 will give me 20 minus 5t equals to negative 25. So when I combine those, that's step 3, the combined step. Then we move on to step 4, separate step, letters and numbers. So I have one letter here and it's on the left. So I'm gonna call this my letter side and this my number side. And just so I don't forget, I'm gonna put plus or minus, that those are my tools here. Okay, plus or minus only. So I call the left side my letter side, so the thing that needs to leave is this 20 because that's a number, right? So he doesn't have a sign on him, but if he were to have a sign, he'd have a positive. So I'm gonna go minus 20 and minus 20. So, and that can stay right there, right? Because it's a letter. So minus 5t equals to negative 45. Cool? And then this negative 45 is the coefficient to this, so it's multiplying. Sometimes people want to cancel this with a plus 5 and then go plus 5. But remember, we're on step 5 and our tools are multiply, divide, and square root. Okay? So this negative 5 is actually multiplying that t. So we're going to divide by negative 5 and divide by negative 5. And we'll get t equals 9. Cool? All right, so I want to try one more that looks a little tricky.